The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And nothing's working here. The monitor's not working over here. So, welcome to live television.
This is just getting nutty. I had to do the Portuguese show earlier before this, and it just seems that everything that could go wrong did go wrong today. And of course, the headsets aren't working either. So,
well,
live TV at its best.
I can hear you. I can hear you fine. So hopefully the viewers can too.
Well, I can hear you as well. So we're golden.
So here we are. It's a Wednesday after the 4th of July, and of course we had a holiday, and we've had an active holiday weekend with all the machinations of local politics on the heels of the USA Today article, and we've got the rantings of both sides, and so it's a good lesson in looking at things realistically, which most people don't.
This is true.
I don't even know where to begin.
Well, I want to start right off the bat with our colleague Mark Monroe-Dion, who wrote his column this week about what can I call it? Looting? I think we've been calling it that. Or do we call it theft? and this is amazing because he's right. Our water bills have gone up.
Doubled
in 1 year. Okay.
Doubled in over the 8 years. He said in his article over here.
Yeah, and our taxes keep increasing. We get fewer and fewer services, and all this city council, all this mayor, all previous mayors, all previous city councils know how to do is tax and tax and tax. And we've said how many times in the show that taxing is not going to get us into economic development. It's not going to improve our economy.
And I have to commend him. He picked up on something that I think the phrase that we coined a long time ago at the beginning. He referred to the Office OED as
yes.
The Office of Economic Disaster. Congratulations. And by the way, Mark, we use disaster and destruction interchangeably. It's really irrelevant which you use, but because
they have the same outcome.
They have the same outcome, and it was nice to see Mr. Fiola stating that Fall River employees will not get any hiring preference at Amazon. So there we go again. Give them all free money and don't require them to hire at least a modicum of 4 other people like they used to do. And I know he keeps saying we can't do that. Yes, you can. Buddy Cianci did that all the time in Providence. Whenever anybody came in to do anything in Providence, Buddy Cianci would require them to meet with the unions and with businesses and stuff, and to ensure that some Providence people would be put to work, which is one of the reasons that the Renaissance of Providence took place, by the way, because all these ridiculous assertions about how wonderful Fall River is, and about rebranding and all this other stuff, this is not the way. This is not the path to improve Fall River.
Rebranding. Wait. Rebranding. You mean sustainable rebranding? Are you quoting Mr. Melian?
Yeah.
Rob Melian said Fall River needs a coordinated, sustained branding campaign. How can you sustain something that's not sustainable?
Well, I'm quoting from the article now. A successful Fall River brand would market the history, culture, diversity, business climate, and community in order to enhance the city's image. Well, Mr. Melian, I know you get paid to write to spew things like this because this is what you get paid to do, and I can't blame you. You got to try to put lipstick on the pig.
That's it.
But the reality is, what are we gonna? What is our history? The history of a city that's always been very low income, even at its height, when they were chaining kids to the machines. We had over 100,000 people, and they all had very low paying jobs, but at least they had jobs. So what is our history? This was not the pearl of the Orient or the pearl of the Northeast Coast. Yeah, we do have diversity. Business climate. Well, again, I hate to get into another article that talks about using research, but you have to use research. The last time I checked, and we may have beaten them since my statistics still show Fall River as the second lowest household income, but also the second lowest number of businesses for a city of our size in the Commonwealth. We may be the lowest now, but we had 10,000 less businesses than Newton, which is number one. That's a lot of businesses. So what are we going to do? Our business climate. A climate in a city that has the lowest income in the state is not a good business climate. You can't rebrand things. And he goes on to say slogans don't fix anything. It's something to that effect. And that's true. And nothing fixes it except a logical and rational approach to reality. And they can protest all they want about the USA Today article. The article is basically factual. I think a letter to the editor, sticking up for Fall River. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say it. That's what my mom told me. Well, this is not about talking about people. This is talking about cities and the way they stack up. And he calls it negativity. No, it's being factual and giving someone, actually, if you pay attention, it's showing you what you have to work on in order to move the city in the right direction. The rating that USA Today, crime, of course, we were in the top 50 in crime. All those ratings. And does that mean anything? You're going to say, oh, that doesn't mean anything. And at the last show, I prefaced my remark saying there's a lot of good people in Fall River. But that doesn't change the fact that Fall River needs some serious changes in direction. Miami, as the Herald News said, was to most people is a paradise. Well, to people who live in Miami, it's not a paradise. It was the worst city, and it is the worst city. I have relatives that live in the Miami area and work in the Miami area. None of them live in Miami. They live in Miami Springs, Coral Gables, and all the surrounding communities, and they commute in, as they do in Washington, D.C., as they do in Chicago, which, by the way, is a very nice place to visit if you stay in the right places. They have great steakhouses. They have the Miracle Mile, or whatever they call it, which is all kinds of high-end shops, the Navy Pier. They have a lot of things in Chicago for the tourist. They also had 50 murders over the 4th of July weekend. Does that make it a good city to live in? They have, most people who work in Chicago and have decent jobs live outside of Chicago, as they live outside of Detroit, as they live outside of Miami. That article was rating cities on things that bring people into a city to live, not to visit. So you can be as offended as you want, but if you say that we don't have crime in this city, even though every single rating has us way at the top in crime, that we don't have drug problems, well, you're burying your head in the sand. And we can't fix a problem unless we acknowledge a problem. All they do in Fall River is say anybody that says anything, and they call it negative. No, it's not negative. It's an observation of fact. It's data that you can use.
Oh, God.
If you have the highest crime rate in the state, you've got a crime problem. You can't write a letter to the editor and say, they're using crappy data. No. You know, I mean, you know, Chicago can't hide from the fact that they had 50 murders over the weekend, over the holiday weekend. You know, it's just like a couple shows ago, CJ, you read an article about how the tax burden is inappropriately put on the residential taxpayer in this city. And two-thirds, yeah. And you know, I mean, so everybody's going to go, oh, you know, what are they doing? That's negative. No, it's not. It's a fact. It's a fact. And it's a fact that somebody that had no interest in Fall River, doesn't know Fall River, and they're looking at this and saying, well, look at this city. It's got very low income, and now it's disproportionate. Now, as Mark Dion says, if you're a working man, you're gone. So what does that mean to us? Let's pay attention to what that means. You've got a disproportionate amount of cost on the residential taxpayer. So what is the effect of that? Think about it for once. Instead of just blindly defending Fall River, because look, I live in Fall. I could have moved out a long time ago, but for me to ignore the facts, that's ludicrous. So what does that mean? It means that people move out of the city. There was a time when 50 or 60% of the people in this city owned property. We're down to 37%. That was the last statistic. We're probably going to be below that next. So what happens when you continue to burden the residential taxpayer? They're going to move out. They're gone. People with jobs and who can afford it, we all know, CJ knows people, I know people that have taken massive hits on their house. But they've gotten to the point where they said, their property owners have said, you know something, I don't give a shit. I don't care how much of a hit I got to take. I'm getting the hell out of here. This is ridiculous.
And you know, a whole
the money I pay, you know?
A whole new cottage industry is formed. Lawyers aren't chasing the car accidents anymore. They're chasing the foreclosures. They're posting on Facebook, saved another family foreclosure. Now they can stay in their house. I mean, really, this is what, you're going to improve that in Fall River? You're going to sell that in Fall River? You know, we had a successful branding campaign. We really did. In the 1970s and 80s, we had one of the most successful branding campaigns in the country. Bring us your poor. Bring us your people who need welfare.
We still
housing.
have it.
And we still have it. We had billboards up and down I-95, all the way down into New Jersey, into Pennsylvania, you know, going all the way down into the Carolinas. Come to Fall River for low-income housing, Section 8, food stamps, welfare. And what did we do? We brought them all here. We created our situation. And we did that because the people of Fall River were too stupid to elect people who would say, this has got to stop. We kept putting the same people back in office. And you know what the scary part is, Chip? Truly, the scary part is that some of those same people are still in office because these people cannot put it down.
Well, you know, the problem you have here is that, you know, it's not only in Fall River, it's all over. People they're totally fed up with the federal government. But that's not going to change either, or the state government.
No, it's not.
It's because what happens to this is everybody wants the other person to get rid of their state rep or their congressman or whoever, because they want to keep. Look, when Tommy Finneran was Speaker of the House, Tommy Finneran could have got put in jail for murdering 28 people, and he would have got reelected. Because the people in his district knew he was the Speaker of the House, and he could get them anything they wanted, deliver any kind of money they needed. So they weren't going to vote him out. It was like, you vote your guy out, we're going to keep Tommy because he's our boy. And the fact is that, you know, that's everybody's attitude. Same thing with city councilors. They go, okay, my city councilor voted for a terrible budget, raised taxes the last 10 consecutive years. As you know, all our fees have doubled in the past 8 years, which not coincidentally starts with when we began electing these people that had no experience, like Flanagan, and then we had Flanagan, and you know, and so then you look at this and you say, well, How is this going to help the city of Fall River? We ignore it. I want a city councilor who's going to do the job to make this city better. No, but most people go, well, I'm still going to, I got 9 votes. I'll vote for a couple people that I think will do the job, but I still got to vote for so-and-so because if I call him or her, I can get a street light tomorrow if it's out on my street. Well, that's not why they're there. They're there to say, look, Mark Monroe Dion should not have had to say this. This should have been said at the budget hearings by the city council. Why didn't somebody say that over the last 8 years we've doubled our fees in this city? Our water, our sewer, everything's doubled, and now they're gonna increase all the other fees like permitting fees. Taxes continually escalate.
Water use fees.
Water use, everything. But why wasn't that said? Why didn't somebody say during the budget, listen, you can't tax your way to prosperity. And the other thing is that what do? Let's look at reality. Who are we bringing in? More people that don't work. Because this is what we're bringing in. We're trucking them in. We're trucking in people on welfare. So realistically, sticking up for Fall River, you can't fix something unless you accept the reality. Let's look at this objectively. The USA Today article said high crime, poor school system, businesses in the toilet. If you were somebody with a fairly good income and you're looking for a place to relocate, what's the first thing you look at? If you got children, you look at the school system. Then you look at the crime rate. Then after you look at the crime rate, then you look at the amenities, okay? You look at the businesses, the restaurants, etc. So you look at Fall River and go, crap, they got one of the highest crime rates in the Commonwealth, one of the highest crime rates in the country. Their school system's been in a state of disarray for decades. And the only thing I can go to is a Portuguese restaurant. I don't have any quality Italian restaurants. I don't have any quality, you only got is Chinese pizza, and you got a couple of little tiny restaurants that serve something other than Portuguese food,
And even that, they got Portuguese food on the menu.
yeah, and they have to. It's obligatory. But the fact is that, look, let's look at the only thing that's going to fix this city is first putting the brakes on this influx of people who don't have jobs. We've got to, and it was recommended to cut the subsidized housing in this city. But no, our Office of Economic Destruction touts more. Let's bring more people who don't contribute. And that is a buffer for people not to come to Fall River. People who would contribute to the economy. Allow businesses to then begin to thrive. Because everybody's moved to Somerset, Westport, East Overshoe, anywhere.
Denver.
Fall River, Denver,
Miami.
Miami, anyway, even Miami. No, but this whole dialogue just goes to show what the major problem is, in my opinion. That we just can't face reality. We're like the little kid who when they do something wrong, rather than say, I did that, it was wrong, I shouldn't do that again, I'm going to learn how to do it the right way, we say, you're picking on me. That's your response. You're picking on me. They're picking on Fall River. Does that report bring in some of the good parts of Fall River? No. It was dealing with things that people actually look at when they want to look at a city, and its habitability, your ability to live there. And in reality, this city is not a place most people would want to come to live in. Let's face that fact. And the hypocrisy of our government to condemn this and threaten a boycott, then in the next breath say, everybody call USA Today and vote for the battleship Massachusetts as the government. Oh boy, talk about hypocrisy and absolute bullshit. Well, it's okay when they give us a high mark. Well, as I said on one of the shows, if they run the best cities in the United States for Portuguese restaurants, we should be in the top 5. We should be in the top 3 as far as I'm concerned, because we got some great Portuguese restaurants here. But that's the thing. It's just that one little thing. So if you're looking for a Portuguese restaurant, you look at that list. But the USA Today list was about cities and their opinions on what cities were the least cities that people are likely to move to. It's like now, I've been to Chicago numerous times, and so I know CJ has too. He lived out in the Midwest. My son went to school in the Midwest. Chicago's a great town to visit.
Great nightlife, great music, great venues.
Buddy Guy, jazz, blues, blues, and great place to visit.
Right, I wouldn't want to live there.
Nobody wants to live there.
And when I was out there, I was out in the Waukegan area a lot, and then I was also in Minneapolis. And we used to go to Chicago on the weekend for a weekend. So, I mean, I used to go to Florida. I used to have a house in Florida. And I would go there. But it's not the same when you live there, okay? It's not, because when you visit, you're leaving. So you don't go to the areas where there's crime and drugs and prostitution and the derelicts, okay? You go to the areas where there's concerts and venues and restaurants and attractions. Now, the USA Today story, one of the key factors they look at was attractions. What do you have in Fall River to come here that's going to attract members throughout the country, even throughout the region? There's nothing. Our biggest attraction in Fall River is the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast. And that is nothing compared to Salem. When you go to Salem, okay, every other corner, there's something along the lines of their witch history. Their history of witches, their history of burning people at the stake. And they made a cottage industry out of it. They didn't make a cottage industry on putting up market rate housing and saying, oh, this is to attract more people who are going to have a higher income to spend. Because you know what? That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and let's draw a very broad line of distinction between a city's becoming a better city to live in and a city's tourism, because this is one of their greatest, this is one of their greatest myths that they love to spin in Fall River. Because let's face it, the worst city to live in, according to USA Today, is one of the top tourist attractions in the United States.
Right.
And I will also tell you that Honolulu, Hawaii is a wonderful place to visit, as all the Hawaiian islands.
My daughter was there with my grandchildren.
But guess what? Get in a car and drive 6 or 7 miles outside of Honolulu and look at the poverty, look at the drugs, look at the crime. The place is not a great place to live. The Hawaiian Islands are not a great place to live.
Hey,
and this is the thing. Fall River says, oh, if we get some tourists to show up, the city's going to immediately get better. No, it's not going to get better.
Right.
We have to lower the crime rate. We have to get rid of we have to not import more low-income people. We have to reduce our low-income people. We have to deal with the crime. We have to increase the livability of this city. And the livability does not get better, even if we could, which we can't, attract tourists. So let's take our ostrich heads off, pull them out of the sand, and look at this for what it is. You don't condemn it. You look at it and you look at it objectively and say, well, the statistics show. Don't try to say they're picking on us. Those statistics are, it's lazy reporting. No, it isn't. It's not lazy reporting. No. It's reporting on the facts. It's reporting on the livability. These are things that when people move into a city, if I was moving out of Fall River, I would look at crime rates I would look at all those factors to see where I was going to go. And rather than condemn it or use the old, you're picking on me, oh, you're picking on me. It's
Sounds like a 5-year-old.
Yeah, well, no, it's what everybody, it's just like people who have certain addictions and stuff. Before they acknowledge the fact that they are addicts and begin to heal, they all have one thing in common. Somebody else is always at fault for their problem.
That's right.
And that's the key. And Fall River has to stop this madness of saying everybody else is wrong. We're right. Well, guess what? No matter who you look at, USA Today, the FBI,
the Wall Street
Boston,
Journal.
the United States Census Bureau, they're not lying. They're giving you facts, and those facts, if you did it, if you were buying a car, you go to Carfax. Is that lazy car shopping? No, it's prudent car shopping. You're using data that's related to a decision you're going to make a good, logical decision. And this is the problem at Fall River. We got the city council sitting there every budget cycle for hours and hours, and nobody ever says, hey, let's give the damn residential taxpayer and the property owners a break for
we
once.
can't do that.
Maybe that will help the city. Let's work on crime. Let's not increase the size of the mayor's staff. Let's increase the size of the police department. Let's increase the size of things that matter. But no, we're gonna pretend everybody else is wrong and we're right. Everybody's picking on us. Poor Fall River.
I was reading this weekend the impediments to success, and for those that don't understand what I just said, the blocks to success. And one of them is that you blame your mistakes on everybody else, which I think was appropriate for what you just said, because that's what we do. It's everyone else's fault. You're just being negative. You can't produce. And I spoke with you a little bit this weekend, Chip, about our second president of the United States, John Adams, who I think was an amazing man. I really do. He was a founding father. And something that many people don't realize is many of our revolutionaries in this country, okay, from that period of time when we were fighting for our freedom from England, died penniless or at the end of an English rope. And they fought till the death for freedom for this country. And people like Adams, where I always heard in a movie, you are obnoxious and disliked. You know that, sir. That was a quote that was always said about him. I actually went looking, and believe it or not, they have this. The Massachusetts Historical Society has the John Adams letters and documents, and he himself said that the people didn't like him. But I did. You know why? Because he fought for the people. He fought for faith in government. He fought for the freedom of the people, the rights of the people. But the people said, we're not going to listen to you. We kind of get that, Chip. I get it anyways. I think they respect you out of fear. but me, they ignore. And I always say, don't shoot the messenger. Sometimes you have to understand that the messenger isn't always that bad. And when you look at these two letters, one from Chris Anteo and the other from Joe Soares, one from Chris Anteo is sticking up for Fall River. I did my due diligence. You haven't done your due diligence. You're talking about subjective things, how people feel, where it's going. Guess what? That is not what the USA Today report was about. And then Joe Soares says, can Fall River ever be great again? Well, to be great again, you must be great at some point. And Fall River was never truly great. It was a wonderful city, but it wasn't truly great. We were a poor city.
Stay angry, and remember, when a government does not work for you anymore, it is time to change it.
That's it. Hey, we'll see you on Friday. Have a great day.